Syria Fast Facts. Syria is a Middle Eastern country sharing a border with Lebanon, Israel, Jordan, Iraq and Turkey. About Syria, from the CIA World Factbook area. 187,437 sq kilometers population. 19,398,448, July 2020 est. Median age. 23.5 years old. Capital. Damascus. Ethnic groups. Arab 50%, Alawite 15%, Kurd 10%, Levantine 10%, other 15%, includes Druze, Ismaili, Imami, Nusairi, Assyrian, Turkoman, Armenian, religion. Muslim 87%, Christian 10%, and Druze 3%, Jewish, few remaining in Damascus and Aleppo. GDP, purchasing power parity. $50.28 billion, 2015 est. GDP per capita. $2,900, 2015 est. Unemployment. 50%, 2017 est. Timeline 1517 to 1918. Part of the Ottoman Empire. 1920 The League of Nations put Syria under French control. April 17, 1946 Independence is declared after French troops leave the country. 1949 to 1958 A series of coups leads to instability in the country. February 1, 1958 Syria and Egypt merge, creating the United Arab Republic. September 28, 1961 Syria secedes from the United Arab Republic. 1967 Syria loses the Golan Heights to Israel during the Six-Day War. November 13, 1970 Minister of Defense Hafez al-Assad stages a bloodless coup. 1976 to 2005 Approximately 17,000 Syrian troops are stationed in neighboring Lebanon. December 29, 1979 presents Syria appears on the U.S. State Department's list of state sponsors of terrorism. June 10, 2000 Hafez al-Assad dies. July 10, 2000 Bashar al-Assad is elected president by referendum, winning 97% of the vote. He is re-elected in 2007. March 2011 presents civil war in Syria begins. Violence flares in Daraa after a group of teens and children are arrested for writing political graffiti. Dozens of people are killed when security forces crack down on demonstrations. The United Nations estimates that 400,000 people have been killed in Syria since the beginning of the civil war. January 22, 2014 At the Geneva Second Conference, U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry says the path to a peaceful Syria must involve the world community but cannot include Assad. June 3, 2014 President Assad is re-elected, receiving 88.7% of the vote in the country's first election since civil war broke out in 2011. The election is criticized by opposition groups in many Western countries. September 22 to 23, 2014 The United States and allies launch airstrikes against ISIS targets in Syria for the first time. September 2015 Claiming to target ISIS Russia conducts its first airstrikes in Syria. April 6, 2017, the United States launches a military strike on a Syrian government airbase in response to chemical weapon attack on civilians days prior. October 26, 2017, a joint report from the United Nations and international chemical weapons inspectors finds that the Assad regime was responsible for an April 2017 sarin attack that killed more than 80 people. Syria has repeatedly denied it had anything to do with the attack and also denies it has any chemical weapons. April 13, 2018 The US, UK and France launched strikes against targets at 3 sites in Syria, following a week of threats of retaliation for an alleged chemical weapons attack on civilians in the Damascus enclave of Douma. July 22, 2019, an American woman in Syria releases a video appealing to US President Donald Trump to take action against the Syrian regime after an airstrike in the rebel-held northwestern province of Idlib claimed scores of casualties. October 6, 2019, the White House announces a major shift in U.S. foreign policy. U.S. forces in northern Syria will pull back in advance of a planned Turkish military offensive against Kurdish forces, who were a key ally of the United States in the fight against ISIS. October 9, 2019 Turkey begins its planned military offensive into northeastern Syria, launching airstrikes and artillery fire across the border. The days that follow led to reports about the displacement of people from the area and the possibility of ISIS prisoners escaping. October 14, 2019, facing a Turkish military offensive, Kurdish forces strike a deal with the Syrian government, marking a major shift in the country's 8-year war. As part of the new alliance, units from the Syrian army reportedly arrive in northern towns to deploy troops along the entirety of the Syria-Turkey border. The next day, Russia confirms it brokered the initial talks between Turkey and the Kurdish forces. It has also begun patrolling a contact line between Syrian and Turkish forces, according to a statement from Russia's defense ministry. October 17, 2019, U.S. Vice President Mike Pence announces in Turkey that he and Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan have agreed to halt Turkey's incursion into northern Syria. As part of the arrangement, Kurdish forces will cede some of their territory, with one senior U.S. official telling CNN that the deal meant the U.S. was validating what Turkey did and allowing them to annex a portion of Syria and displace the Kurdish population. October 21, 2019, at a press conference in Afghanistan, U.S. Secretary of Defense Mark Esper says U.S. troops in the south will remain in Syria in part to protect oil fields from ISIS. Other U.S. troops will withdraw from northern Syria in weeks, not days. 4 days later, he reiterates that the United States will maintain a reduced presence in Syria to deny ISIS access to oil revenue as we reposition for the next phase of the Defeat ISIS campaign. October 22, 2019, Erdogan and Russian President Vladimir Putin unveil a 10-point shared agenda, shaping the end of Syria's civil war. Putin says Russia and Turkey agree to uphold the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Syria. The formerly US-backed Kurdish fighters must withdraw from the towns of Manbij and Tal Rifat. Click subscribe to receive the latest news.